Hey guys, welcome to Fearless Cooking. Hey, today's going to be a little bit of a change of plan. I had originally thought of doing let me move this out of the way so you can see it, chuck roast, and I was going to do this extra long roast that took like hours, and I did that yesterday, and to be honest with you, I didn't like the way that it turned out. What I've decided is that chuck roast just has too much connective tissue in it for me to really enjoy it when I cook it to like 130, 135. I think it needs a longer cooking time. And I guess if you were going to do it at like 135 or 140, you'd want to do something like sous vide where you would hold it at that temp for a real long period of time to really break all that connective tissue down. So what I ended up doing is I'm gonna like probably turn it into a stew at some point. But what I wanted to do today, since I got the grass-fed chuck roast, and in case somebody else went out and bought one, since I said that was what we were fixing last week, or that I was going to record this week, I'm gonna make a kind of North African, Moroccan inspired stew with this. So what I'm going to do, I've got some beef bone broth, but just beef broth will work. This is you can see it's like Jello, right? With that I just used like a couple of big beef knuckle bones, and then cooked it in the Instapot for like 4 hours with some veggies with it, and that's what I ended up with. I was able to like skim the fat off the top, and this is just, I mean, it's great stock for soup. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to use sweet potatoes, some onion, some carrots, some ginger, some garlic. These are some Thai chilies. There's the ginger. This is turmeric. This is whole cumin seeds, and that's whole coriander. And I'm not going to do what I would normally do with a stew, where I put it in and brown it real good on each side. Because what I figured out the other day when I skipped that step is there wasn't like a big drop off in flavor. And it's one of the it's like with all the spices and everything in there. Oh, I forgot to add, I've got like 2 bunches of collards that I've taken off the stem. We'll chop those up in just a minute. But with all these flavors, it's like that's going to save you a step. And if you're trying to do this during the week, it's something you can just kind of toss everything in the Instapot, set it for, I'm going to set this probably like 20, let's cut the difference. I'm going to time it for 25 minutes, which probably total cooking time will be about 45 minutes on it. So what I'll do is I'll stop the recording and let the time elapse, and then we'll rejoin whenever I'm opening the thing. But anyway, what we're going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and cut up the veggies, get that done, and then I'll cut the meat up. And before I put anything else into the Instapot, what I'll do is I'll put it on saute just for like maybe a minute to get the spices kind of blooming. Then I'll put everything else in. So I'm going to grab my knife, and because I'm going to cut this thing down, pretty much now I just try to do this just every time. It's just use the knife on the honing steel just to kind of straighten up the edge, make it just a little bit sharper. I'm going to grab a bowl to put these things in. Okay. Here we go. Oh, and I'm going to put just a little bit of coconut milk in it as well. Yeah, I mentioned the other day, I am, it's ironic, I have absolutely loved ketogenic diet, but I'm cutting back on saturated fat just a little bit, just to kind of see. I've got some like real high LDL particle number, and so it's like, yeah, I'm even going to be doing some statins, which I had said for the longest time I'll never ever do that. That's the scourge of the pharmaceutical industry. And I like met with this like real prominent lipidologist, and I just realized, one of the things that I've I've gravitated towards as I've started learning about, health and nutrition was it doesn't pay to like adhere too close to some kind of dogma. And so, although I reject a lot of kind of the traditional, hey, you got to be scared of fat, what I realize is 9 out of 10 people can eat a high saturated fat diet and their body adjusts accordingly. I just happen to be kind of either broken metabolically years ago, or what I kind of think has gone on is I just happen to hit the genetics jackpot when it comes to not processing saturated fat the way that most people do. So anyway, I'm going to try that. The kind of the current, as far as the way that I'll be cooking on this, will be in essence it's going to be a paleo diet, and it'll have, I can show you as we're going, hey, here's the steps you do differently if you want this meal to be keto. And I'll also be doing a lot more fish, so we're kind of going to bring some of the Mediterranean components in without the grains. So anyway, we'll see where it goes. And I'm just cutting the carrots up. I'm going to put those here just to kind of give them a spot to hang out in this bowl. And then got this one other one to do. And these are this purple carrot. They're just kind of the table carrots. Are organic. I get them at Central Market. They're like 99 cents a pound. What I would do with this, one of the things with things like peppers, is I always like to kind of strength test them before I put a whole bunch of them into a dish, because the last thing I want to do is put something in that's like nuclear, that is just going to like melt the whole pot down. These are not very strong. So it's funny, I never used Thai chilies for a long time because I thought that they were like kind of in the range of like the African bird pepper. And I just, I like spicy stuff, but I don't like stuff that just completely drowns out the rest of the flavors. And these are not. This is more like a fresh jalapeno. So get the seeds out. My guess is, though, even though they're not crazy hot, you probably don't want to rub your eye after you handle the inside of these. Safety check this one. Yeah, it's a little hotter than the other one. In fact, it's quite a bit hotter than the other one, but it's fine. Oops. All right. Cut the very ends off of them. And then we'll get the other stuff cut. Yeah, I just wanted to get all the veggies cut up on this before I cut the meat up on it. And on the sweet potatoes, I've already washed these off. I'm just gonna cut them down the middle. Once again, give it something kind of flat. And these are, let's see, these may be, I'm trying to remember if these were like garnet sweet potatoes, what the variety was. I got some New Jersey ones the other day that were good, but I think these are just kind of whatever the regular sweet potato is. And I never bother to, peel sweet potatoes. Just cut that one in half. Yeah, I figured out, if I don't have to have whole slices or something, then it's like I like it a whole lot better if I can give myself a flat surface of whatever it is I'm cutting, so that it's not rolling around while I'm trying to cut it. Because I managed to, it's like I have been doing fearless cooking now for, I guess, over a year, and I never had cut myself. And the other day, not doing fearless cooking, I managed to nick myself, and I was just like, well, that's kind of stupid. I just, I wasn't following some of the advice that I'm always advocating on here. And it wasn't a big deal. It was just more like, okay, well, that could have been a big deal. Now, burning, that's something that's different. I feel like I probably burned myself, I don't know how many times, just, inadvertently sticking your hand up against something. Like, I think this time it was either the air fryer basket or the cast iron skillet the other day when I was doing that chicken. And it's like, man, you don't have to get up against something that's 400 degrees or 450 degrees in that case for very long before it leaves a mark on you. Okay, this is all done. Onion, grab another thing for that. Okay. And I just, on this, I'm just going to rough cut it. I probably should save this to go in stock, so I'll do that. Yeah, if you don't save, like, kind of vegetable trim, whenever you're making broths, you're kind of missing out on some flavor, because it just, if you're going to strain it anyway, then it's great just to kind of have, like, I'll throw that in a bag that has like some the spines off from kale and collards, and like onion ends, and then you just throw all that in with some bones, and you end up making this great stock. So, okay, this in here, and I'll do the collards right before I toss them in. Okay, so I'm going to trim this up pretty good. So any of the real fatty or gristly stuff, we'll cut that off. And then I'm just going to cut it into chunks. Like here's, that's not going to render down in the amount of time. And, nobody wants a big bite of fat, so, or gristle. All right. Yeah, see, this has got, it's kind of a hard, it's almost like a piece of bone. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. Just trying to see if I can kind of tease that piece out of there. Yeah, this, it's like, all right, the length of time on that one is not worth the reward, because it was a pretty small piece. And then just cutting this down, I'm trying to leave it where that it's not going to get too, overdone in the amount of time. And that's bone there, so let's see if we can figure out where it goes. Yeah, see this, we'll see what happens with it. That's, if I was going to, so this is a piece of the connective tissue, probably part of a tendon or something that goes through it. If this was going to cook for a real long time, then that would go ahead and just turn it into gelatin. But since I'm not going to cook it in there that long, let's see if we can kind of peel it off of that. There we go. What's that? Yeah, that's like a piece of probably fascia. All right. Yeah, that's, well, we'll see what this does in the cook down, because I'm not going to break it all down. What I may do with this too is I'll probably just go ahead and throw this bone in there as well, because it'll add a little bit of flavor. I'll go ahead and cut as much of this off as possible. Something that's fairly stable on it. There we go. Okay. All right, yeah, we'll just toss that in with it to add a little extra to it. And I'm just going to put it back on this plate to get it off the board. Since the collards are going to go in for the full amount of time, I'll still go ahead and cut them on this. I'm going to wash my hands though, because I may not use all of the collards. So the idea of grabbing those with meaty fingers and then sticking them back in the fridge doesn't seem like a very sound strategy. So let's start with a big handful and we'll figure out if we need to add more. And I just, with these, it's more just to make it kind of easier to get them in the Instapot, because they're all going to cook down. Okay, so we'll start with that. If I see, hey, I need to add a few more, I've got some right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn it on to saute and let it get, it automatically comes on to 30 minutes. We're not going to need it. I'm going to only do that for probably about a minute or so. And I'm just going to toss this in enough to just kind of where that you can start to smell it. Oh, tell you, before I do that, I'll let that heat up. I'm going to, no, I won't cancel it. All right. I'm going to do the ginger real quick. So I use a spoon to peel it with. So I'll go over here, and I just take the skin off of it real quick, and then I'm going to cut it pretty fine. Yeah, this is such an easier way to peel ginger than trying to use a paring knife or a vegetable peeler. Because that skin is soft. And if you get a little bit of ginger skin in there, it's not gonna be the end of the world. But since it's pretty easy to get off, might as well do it. Whenever I'm doing like bone broth and I put ginger in there, I don't bother to peel it because I'm gonna strain everything out anyway. So it's like, okay, it just saves you some time. Now what I'll do is go ahead and chop this real quick. Just cut it real fine, and then I'll mince it. And you could grate this with a grater. I don't mind the pieces in there. All right. And then let me do the garlic real quick. Almost came off in one piece. And same thing if I'm doing for the bone broth, I don't peel the garlic because the skin of the garlic has some pretty good garlic taste. So like I said, if I'm going to strain it, then I don't worry about it. And since all of this is going to get cooked in there, I don't freak out about the fact that there's still some beef on the knife. Now, if these were going to be going in at different times and I wasn't going to cook it all the way, then obviously I would make sure that I had everything, I'd clean the cutting board and everything else in between. So let me wash my hands. And then I'll get I'll go ahead and bloom the spices real quick. And I'll put just a little bit of fish sauce in because fish sauce makes everything better. Okay, hit the saute. And then we're just going to give that just a second. And then we will get this going. And the thing about the Instapot, is it says, okay, it takes this long, like I'm going to set it for 25 minutes. Well, the 25 minutes starts once it like pressurizes, and that always takes a few minutes. So it's like it's misleading, Yes, this is a whole lot faster than trying to cook it on the stove, but it does take a little bit longer than the 25 or 30 minutes. All right, and then we'll put the cumin seeds in there and the coriander. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a little salt and pepper. I salted the beef before I cut it, and I just, sprinkled it lightly. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of pepper in here. And now this is kind of, so I didn't measure out those are probably all, eyeballed at probably close to a teaspoon. But, and this, like the same thing with the way that I'm going to use the broth. This is how I cook most of the times. I'm just eyeballing stuff going, yeah, that looks like, kind of a reasonable ratio between things. Because, yeah, you can already start to smell it. It's not, here's what you're doing is just looking for, okay, what are the flavors? And with this, I've got a book that talks about different regions, and one of the things that they were saying was that North Africa, cumin, coriander, and turmeric are all used together. And then they also had cinnamon, and I thought, I wasn't so sure about cinnamon with this, so I decided to leave the cinnamon out. And they also talked about ginger, and I figured, well, was either going to put a jalapeno in it, or in this case, I had those type chilies, so I thought, well, it needs a little spice, so we added that. Okay, that's starting to smoke a little, so we'll cancel that. Now then, I'll throw just a little bit of fish sauce in there. Oh yeah. All right. Now let's put the meat in first. Like I said, normally I would brown it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with this. Okay. Wash my hands. And that was probably about a 3-pound chuck. So, you know, you could obviously use more. You know, you could use less. It doesn't have to be chuck. The thing about chuck roast is it has more of that connective tissue in there. All right, so I'm going to put the sweet potatoes in, and then this is the sweet potatoes with the carrots and the pepper. Put that in. I'll put the ginger in, the onions, and I'll show you what all this looks like before we hit go. So this is how much we've got in there right now. So it's, and the main thing you have to pay attention to with the Instant Pot is that in here, it's still hot on the bottom. It says PC Max, which is pressure cooker. So whenever you know that was dumb. Anytime you're putting liquid in there, you don't want to overfill that line. So now then, I'm going to add some of the bone. In fact, I think we'll probably put almost, yep, we'll put all of it in there. All right. And I will put a little bit of the coconut milk just to kind of give it a little bit of that coconut flavor. That's probably about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of a cup. What am I missing? Oh, the garlic and the collards. You know, I could just use the bench scraper, which is right here. Yeah, my surface is, I'm not keeping it clean like I'm always preaching, so shame on me for not following my own guidance. All right, this. I'm probably going to put just a little bit of water in. Just probably maybe a cup. Okay, that's good. All right, so got that in there. Make sure I've got all my ingredients. I do. Now I'm going to put the top on and seal it. Okay, and we'll set it for 25 minutes. So I hit pressure cook, and then I'm going to increase the time. I'm going to decrease the time to 25 minutes. There we go. All right, and what it'll do now is it records the 25 minutes, and it'll like go to on. Yep, there we go. And what it's gonna, you've got the vent, you gotta make sure that the vent is closed. And then what it's gonna do is it's gonna, in essence, start kind of boiling it down there. It's gonna build the pressure up. This little red valve here will pop up, which will seal. It allows it to pressurize. And then it'll start, once it comes up to pressure, it'll start to do the countdown. So I'll bring you guys back on after the time has elapsed, and we'll take a look, see what it looks like. See you guys in a minute. Hey guys, welcome back. So it sounded like 8 minutes ago, so we're done with that, cleaned up the cutting board here. Now, for those of you kind of new to the Instapot world, what I typically do is I'll just go ahead and unplug it, and that what it does is that when you see that L in the time readout, it means it's keeping it on like a warm. So, you know, and the other thing is whenever you're moving this thing, you got to be careful, because any kind of jiggling can cause that valve, the pressure relief valve, to kind of move, and you've got steam coming up. So, obviously you don't want the thing pointing towards your face when you start to vent it. I also make sure that I'm not aiming it at a cabinet, and as you can see, it'll start to vent. The other thing that I figured out kind of the hard way is that if I'm going to go ahead and do what they call an active release, which means I don't just let like if I just left this alone and went off and did something else and came back in like say 30 minutes later, that pressure valve that you see right there, that thing would have dropped down because the temperature in here would drop down enough, the pressure would come down, so it would kind of depressurize itself. Okay. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to go ahead and just like kind of power vent the thing, but because it's got so much liquid in it, it'll kind of hiss and spit, and instead of have stew juice all over the floor, I'm just going to toss this kitchen towel over it. So I'm going to go ahead and vent it, okay, and then I'll put this over that, so it still lets it vent. It just kind of cuts down on any liquid, and we'll let that kind of come down. With this, you could, like, we'll take a look and see. My guess is that it's not, the amount of time it was, the potato won't like completely break down and thicken up. So you could thicken this with some, like, I would use probably like some cassava flour. But let's take a look and see what it looks like. I'm going to grab a bowl so we can spoon a little into it. Grab a ladle. Yeah, it's not, I think it's supposed to be like a cold front blowing in tomorrow, so it'll be a little bit cooler. But, I like soup pretty much most of the time. So somebody just ring the doorbell. My guess is that Amazon is delivering a package today. It's like I feel like I'm on kind of the regular delivery schedule with those guys because they're always delivering something here. All right, it'll take probably another minute or two. Yeah, if you don't have an Instapot, I can't recommend them highly enough. If nothing else, just the ease of being able to do bone broth in it, it was great. But then the thing that I like about it is it's great for soups, stews, roast. Short ribs are absolutely dynamite. And then, things like chicken thighs, you can cook those in it real quick. I don't recommend it for anything that's like super delicate, because like I wouldn't want to cook fish in there unless I was trying to turn it into some kind of chowder, because it will hammer stuff because of the amount. It's like it's going to get up probably 230, 240, but it probably gets it to a pretty vigorous boil in there. So it's wonderful if you're trying to like tenderize tougher cuts of meat. And then like I haven't like gone into the bean side of the Mediterranean diet, since I'm kind of keeping the paleo version of it. But if you were going to do beans, these things are supposed to be great for that. It's like I was a reluctant adopter. It was one of those things that was so hyped. I'm like, how can anything be that great? And in fact, I think it kind of lives up to the hype. The air fryer, it's like, I guess, like I said the other day, if you have just like a killer convection oven, this kind of replicates that. But the nice thing about this is that stuff's done really quick. You're not having to heat a great big space up like you do with an oven. I think it's a valuable tool, and it does take up some kitchen real estate, but it's not that bad. All right, so we're getting closer. Boy, it smells great. And I've never, I used all of those spices. I haven't used that combination before, but I'll be real curious about the taste. There we go. So when that valve drops down, basically what it says is this thing is depressurized enough that you can open it. Now, if you try to open it while that thing's popped up, it won't let you. It's a safety device that's in there. Okay, let's see here. Oh yeah, and it looks delicious. And the other thing I like about doing it this way is now it's like a little slop. It's a one pot meal, so you don't have to mess with anything else. Oh yeah, that looks delicious. And that turmeric kind of gives it that nice kind of golden. Let's see what this tastes like. I'm just gonna. Oh yeah. It's got a little bit of the spice from the pepper, but the flavors of the turmeric and then the coriander. I can like highly recommend this combination. So, it's got. We're not into full on spring yet. I think I don't know that we even had a winter this winter, but this is a great. Great dish if it's rainy or whatever outside. So like I said, give it a try. And then I'm not sure if next week's is going to be recorded, but then after that we'll get back into kind of a regular rhythm. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week and look forward to cooking with you again in the near future. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.